Good breeding consists in concealing how much we think of ourselves and how little we think of the other person. No God and no religion can survive ridicule. No political church, no nobility, no royalty or other fraud, can face ridicule in a fair field, and live. Man is the only religious animal. In the holy task of smoothing his brother's path to the happiness of heaven, he has turned the globe into a graveyard. Homely truth is unpalatable. The moral sense enables one to perceive morality, and avoid it. The immoral sense enables one to perceive immorality and enjoy it. Just the omission of Jane Austen's books alone would make a fairly good library out of a library that hadn't a book in it. The gentle reader will never know what a consummate ass he can become until he goes abroad. Optimist, daydreamer more elegantly spelt. Change is the handmaiden nature requires to do her miracles with. Geological time is not money. Ignorant people think it is the noise which fighting cats make that is so aggravating, but it ain't so, it is the sickening grammar that they use. We are called the nation of inventors. And we are. We could still claim that title and were its loftiest honors if we had stopped with the first thing we ever invented, which was human liberty. It shames the average man to be valued below his own estimate of his worth. It's awful undermining to the intellect. German is, you want to take it in small doses, or first you know your brains all run together, and you feel them flapping around in your head same as so much drawn butter. My father was a Saint Bernard, my mother was a collie, but I am a Presbyterian. Consider the average intelligence of the common man, then realize 50% are even stupider. Always obey your parents when they are present. This is the best policy in the long run. Because if you don't, they will make you. Most parents think they know better than you do, and you can generally make more by humoring that superstition than you can by acting on your own better judgment. Give a man a reputation as an early riser and he can sleep till noon. In the small town of Hannibal, Missouri, when I was a boy, everybody was poor, but didn't know it, and everybody was comfortable and did know it. Wherefore being all of one mind, we do highly resolve that government of the grafted by the grafter for the grafter shall not perish from the earth. It was a place of sin, loose women, whiskey, and gambling. It was no place for a good Presbyterian, and I did not long remain one. When one has tasted watermelons, one knows what angels eat. It was not a southern watermelon that Eve took, we know it because she repented. It is hopeless for the occasional visitor to try to keep up with Chicago. She outgrows his prophecies faster than he can make them. She is always a novelty, for she is never the Chicago you saw when you passed through the last time. Lord, save us all from a hope tree that has lost the faculty of putting out blossoms. The easy confidence with which I know another man's religion is folly teaches me to suspect that my own is also. Not until you become a stranger to yourself will you be able to make acquaintance with the friend. A sound heart is a surer guide than an ill-trained conscience. O Lord our God, help us to tear their soldiers to bloody shreds with our shells. Help us to cover their smiling fields with the pale forms of their patriot dead. Help us to drown the thunder of the guns with the shrieks of their wounded, writhing in pain. Take your mind out every now and then and dance on it. It is getting all caked up. Switzerland would be a mighty big place if it were ironed flat. Cold. If the thermometer had been an inch longer, we'd all have frozen to death. Diligence is a good thing, but taking things easy is much more restful. We had an abundance of mangoes, papayas and bananas here, but the pride of the islands, the most delicious fruit known to men, cherimoya, was not in season. It has a soft pulp, like pawpaw, and is eaten with a spoon. Most people are bothered by those passages of scripture they do not understand, but the passages that bother me are those I do understand. Thanksgiving Day. Let us all give humble, hearty, and sincere thanks now, but the turkeys. A newspaper is not just for reporting the news as it is, but to make people mad enough to do something about it. We often feel sad in the presence of music without words, and often more than that in the presence of music without music. But the elastic heart of youth cannot be compressed into one constrained shape long at a time. We should be careful to get out of an experience only the wisdom that is in it and stop there, lest we be like the cat that sits down on a hot stove lid. She will never sit down on a hot stove lid again, and that is well, but also she will never sit down on a cold one anymore. Tell the truth or trump, but get the trick. The soul and substance of what customarily ranks as patriotism is moral cowardice, and always has been. Remember this, take this to heart, live by it, die for it if necessary, that our patriotism is medieval, outworn, obsolete, that the modern patriotism, the true patriotism, the only rational patriotism, is loyalty to the nation all the time, loyalty to the government when it deserves it. The spirit of wrath, not the words, is the sin, and the spirit of wrath is cursing. We begin to swear before we can talk. Where a blood relation sobs, an intimate friend should choke up, a distant acquaintance should sigh, a stranger should merely fumble sympathetically with his handkerchief. But I reckon I got to light out for the territory ahead of the rest, because Aunt Sally she's going to adopt me and civilize me, and I can't stand it. I have been there before. At noon I observed a bevy of nude young native women bathing in the sea, and I went and sat down on their clothes to keep them from being stolen. The Southerner talks music. My land, the power of training, of influence, of education. It can bring a body up to believe anything. Let us consider that we are all partially insane. It will explain us to each other. It will unriddle many riddles, it will make clear and simple many things which are involved in haunting and harassing difficulties and obscurities now.